Federal government says a rash of cyber attacks
in a global cyber attack.
What if I told you that a 15-year-old kid once hacked into NASA and the US Department of Defense, stealing software worth millions and accessing classified government data? You might think this is a plot from a Hollywood thriller, but this actually happened. This is the story of Jonathan James, better known by his online alias Comrade, a young hacker whose skills and curiosity took him into some of the most secure networks in the world, before leading to a tragic and shocking end. Introduction. Jonathan James was born in 1983 and grew up in Florida. Like many kids of the late 90s, he had an early fascination with computers. But unlike others, he wasn't just interested in playing video games or browsing the internet, he was obsessed with understanding how things worked behind the scenes. By the age of 13, he was already exploring vulnerabilities in computer systems. While most people saw hacking as something only elite programmers could do, Jonathan believed that any system could be broken into with enough patience and skill. His curiosity and determination led him to test security networks, starting with small targets before setting his sights on the biggest challenge of all, the US government. The hacks that shocked the world. One hacking the Department of Defense. In 1999, at just 15 years old, Jonathan infiltrated the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA, a division of the US Department of Defense responsible for analyzing threats like nuclear weapons and biowarfare. He installed a backdoor into their system, giving himself unrestricted access to their network. This allowed him to monitor internal emails between government officials, steal usernames and passwords of high-ranking employees, control military computers remotely without detection. This wasn't just a simple case of curiosity. He had gained access to a part of the government responsible for national security. 2. Hacking NASA. Not long after, Jonathan set his eyes on NASA, one of the most advanced technology agencies in the world. Over several weeks, he breached their systems and stole software worth $1.7 million. This software wasn't just any ordinary program. It was used to control critical functions of the International Space Station, ISS, including life support systems, environmental control, physical movement of modules in space. NASA immediately detected unauthorized activity but couldn't identify who was responsible. In response, they were forced to shut down their entire network for 21 days, causing significant operational delays and costing thousands of dollars in damages. When NASA finally revealed the breach to the public, they admitted that James had accessed highly sensitive information. However, Jonathan later claimed he wasn't maliciously stealing data. He was just exploring. The investigation and arrest. It didn't take long for federal authorities to start tracking him down. The US Secret Service, NASA investigators, and the Department of Defense all worked together to find the hacker responsible for these breaches. After tracing his activity, authorities discovered that the attacks originated from a residential home in South Florida, Jonathan James's house. In 2000, a SWAT team raided his home. They seized his computer, hard drives, hacking tools, thousands of lines of stolen code. At just 16 years old, Jonathan was arrested and became the first juvenile in US history to be sentenced for cybercrime. The consequences, because he was still a minor, Jonathan avoided serious prison time. Instead, he was sentenced to 6 months of house arrest, probation, a ban on using computers. He was also required to write letters of apology to NASA and the Department of Defense. At the time, Jonathan accepted responsibility, stating that he hacked purely out of curiosity and a desire to learn, not to cause harm. But despite completing his sentence, the stigma of being a convicted hacker followed him. The tragic end. In 2007, years after his release, Jonathan's name surfaced again. This time, he was indirectly linked to a massive cybercrime case involving stolen credit card data. The case was unrelated to his past hacking, but law enforcement began investigating him anyway. Even though there was no concrete evidence linking him to the crime, Jonathan feared that the government would use his past to frame him. On May 18th, 2008, at just 24 years old, Jonathan took his own life. In his suicide note, he wrote, "I have no faith in the justice system. I am being unfairly targeted for crimes I did not commit. I am left with no choice." His death shocked the cybersecurity and hacking community. Many saw him as a misunderstood genius, while others believed his story was a cautionary tale about the dangers of hacking and government surveillance. The legacy of Jonathan James. Jonathan James's story is both inspiring and tragic. He was a brilliant mind, proving that even a teenager could breach the most secure systems in the world. But his case also serves as a warning. Hacking, even if done out of curiosity, comes with serious consequences. His story also raised major questions in the cybersecurity world. Should young hackers be mentored and guided instead of punished? Could Jonathan James have become a leading cybersecurity expert if given the right opportunities?